I really loved books, and I loved reading from a very early age, and I spent a lot of my time at the public library. It was one of the few places my mother would let me go on my own, and I actually wrote poetry and short stories before I started writing songs. So, and I think it wasn't, I never had made this conscious decision, no, now I'm going to write songs, but I think it was this combination of loving books and writing and always having music in my life. My mother sings, my sister sings, there's always music in the house. I think I was singing as soon as I could talk, and also started playing instruments very early on. So I think it was just about combining the love of those two things. I received a scholarship to a private boarding school, an academic scholarship, when I was 15 years old, and went away to the school. And there I met the chaplain, who discovered that I was playing guitar, and he also played guitar. He loaned me his guitar for a little while, and then he said, you know, you really need to get your own guitar. And I said, oh, I don't have the money to get a guitar. And one day he called me to his office, and he gave me a check and said that everyone at the school had put in a little bit of money, and I was able to buy my first real guitar. I had always wanted to go to college, and it was a dream that my mother had for me and my sister, and I'm actually one of the first people in my immediate family to graduate from college. So it was something that was important to me because I saw education as an opportunity to improve my life and have a chance to be able to support myself and do something meaningful. And I had wanted to be a veterinarian from very early age, and so that was my plan. I started out as a biology major my first year in college, and switched gears over the years and graduated with a degree in anthropology. I'd been playing around for a while and had been offered record deals by all these different people, Lady in Argentina and various independent record labels. And a friend of mine in high school had actually told me that he had a relative who was in the music business and had offered to help me get a record deal. And we actually made a demo tape when I was in high school. And he sent it to his uncle, who worked for CBS, who sent me a letter back saying it was too early in my development to consider giving me a record deal, and next time I should tune my guitar. So that was the kind of first time that sort of thing happened. And then when I was in college, a schoolmate whose father's in the music business would come to some of my concerts and had seen me play at various places. He offered to help me make a demo tape. And the short story is that they did offer me a production deal, which then led to the record contract with him right away, and felt really comfortable with him. And he was very respectful of, I guess, my place at that point in regard to my level of experience in the music business. And I had made some demo tapes, so I'd been in local recording studios, but I'd never been in a professional recording studio. And he's actually the kind of person who believes that the artist should have input into the process. So he listened to the ideas that I had and respected my desire to keep the record very simple. And I guess he felt that the strength of what I was doing was, mainly coming from the kind of solo acoustic aspect of it. So I think he saw his job as one of simply trying to flesh that out a little bit more, but not to the point where he obscured the essence of it, successful as it was. And I don't think anyone did. I actually heard that people at the record company were hoping that they would sell 200,000 copies of the record, and they would have been quite happy with that. And there was nothing at the time to indicate that there was the potential for the kind of success that the record had, because at that point things were very different. Musically, the kind of musical landscape was really more about electronic music, and there were some other things that had come out, like Suzanne Vega made a record before mine that had done really well, and I think, in a way, kind of laid the groundwork for my record. Amazing to have a chance to play at the Nelson Mandela birthday celebration, and that was, I don't even know why I was there, actually. and I think there was a pretty good chance that I actually wasn't even going to get to play, even though I'd flown all the way from the States to London, and they had me waiting in the wings because the schedule wasn't entirely set. I think it was pretty much in order for all of the major acts who were scheduled to play, but they were just thinking they would slot me in wherever they needed me if they had a moment of downtime, and that happened. Stevie Wonder was supposed to go on, and somehow he didn't have some programs for one of his keyboards, and so he wasn't ready to go, and they didn't have anyone else ready, and all I had was my guitar and a vocal mic, so it was a pretty simple setup. In some ways, I didn't realize how big that first record was and what a big deal it was at the time, because when it's your life, you're just living it, and whereas from the outside, some things seem to happen overnight. When you're going through it on a day-to-day basis, there's certain things that don't change for quite some time. All of the attention, that was something that was pretty immediate and kind of hard to handle. I had spent most of my time, in what felt like a fairly small community where I went to school, and I had lots of friends and routines, and found that trying to do just basic things in my life became more difficult, like going shopping or going to movies with my friends or going out to dinner. And it got to the point where my friends didn't want to go out with me. They wouldn't go to the movies because they just didn't want the hassle of all the attention that was sometimes generated. And so I kind of retreated from that. I didn't really go out as much as I would have in the past, and I don't know, over the years you kind of figure out a way to manage it all. I actually didn't feel pressure in making those records or writing the songs for those records, and also some of the songs had been written before I made the first record. I actually wrote Fast Car after I had a record contract, which is kind of funny, I think, because that's the song, or one of the songs that many people know from that first record. I approached the second record in the same way I'd approached the first one, and I worked with David Kirschenbaum again on that record. I think there were greater expectations from the record company because of the success of the first record. They wanted to repeat it. But I had a manager at the time who shielded me pretty well from the pressure that might have been coming from the record company and various other people. In all this, I have always felt that my role is really just to try to do my best in making the music and making records and performing, and it was a gift to have had the kind of success that I had with the first record, because it gave me a lot of creative freedom from that point on. One reason is that I'd had that song, I'd written it a long time ago, like I don't know how many years it was. I wrote it, I think, my last year of college. So I had it for a while, and hadn't recorded it because it just didn't seem like it fit on any of the records that I made. And then whenever I played it live, people always reacted to the song. So I knew that people liked it, and I'd even played it once on Saturday Night Live. I don't know how many years that was before I made the New Beginning record that the song is on, but so I wasn't surprised people liked it. Didn't know that it would be a major factor in the success of that record. Give me one I've never really concerned myself with the way that other people perceive me, because there's nothing I can do about it. I've heard various things that people have said and trying to describe me as a protest singer, and I'd never accepted that label. I don't even think that folk singer is really relevant either. There were all these people who were trying to tie me to, the 60s and 70s folk singers. And I like a lot of that music, but I didn't grow up listening to it. It's not why I started writing songs, or I picked up a guitar, in Cleveland, in my household. My parents were listening to R&B and jazz and gospel music, and I think the way that I started writing songs and playing them had more to do with the fact that I chose an acoustic guitar as my instrument. Music is just so fluid, and culture is so fluid, that a lot of the categories that people come up with, I think, are really irrelevant, because there are no strict boundaries. There was a time, I think, when you could say that there were, because there were regional boundaries, and people didn't travel as much, and there wasn't quite as much media in our lives that made it so that we could be exposed to lots of different things in a fairly short amount of time. But I'm just simply expressing myself through music, and it's a reflection of some of the things that I think about, and some things that are of concern to me. A lot of the songs on the first record and the songs that I continue to write now are in part a reflection of my own experiences, and or the experiences of people who've been a part of my life. So it's not about necessarily making a political statement, but just about talking about life as I've seen it. Occasionally there are elements of autobiography in the songs, but for the most part they're not strictly autobiographical. There are some songs that are, a song like Across the Lines is actually fairly autobiographical, but I generally don't write. There are some common themes or a thread that seems to connect one song to another. And a lot of people have commented about Let It Rain, that it seems really personal. From my perspective, it's not any more or less personal than any of the other records that I've made. I do think it has a more intimate quality than some of the other records I've made recently. And a good part of that is, because of the production style and the way it was recorded, the way my voice sounds. There's really not much you can do to, I think, to determine what people will like.